So I drove a Honda Civic Type R across Michigan, did a track day, drove it back, and it was a disaster. Let me explain. So there I was, a little chronically online gamer, playing video games, Deadlock, been playing a lot of that recently, and up pops a notification from my man, Chris, aka the Topher on YouTube. He needs some help driving one of his cars across Michigan to do sort of like a media day at Gingerman Raceway. The car in question, essentially brand new, Honda Civic Type R. And at that moment, a couple things were going through my head. Number one, I've never actually raced at Gingerman. Number two, I don't really like driving other people's cars on track, especially for entire days. Earlier this year, I co-drove my brother's Elantra N on track. That went great, but I still never really felt comfortable going flat out, pushing to the edge with someone else's car. But it did sound like a really, really good opportunity to go on a road trip, do a track that I've never done before, meet some new people, and honestly, it just sounded like a good time. Hello, Will.
What's up?
It's early. So we are on our way to pick up our buddy's Civic Type R.
Is there no heated seats?
No. It's a great little car. I love the Mini, all right? Just plowing the leaves a little bit, we're raking it. All right, we're all packed up. Got the Type R for the day. Should be really, really cool. Car looks awesome.
We are in Chris's FL5 Type R right now. So we're going up with the gang. Everybody's going down 94 to get to Gingerman.
We immediately lost them all though, like.
Yeah.
Couldn't figure out how to close the garage door.
We were trying to close Chris's garage door, yeah.
Just gonna list out some of the cars in our little personal caravan. FL5, Civic Type R, the new WRX TS, BMW Z4, which looks sick, C7 Corvette that sounded unreal, as well as Chris's S2000. So it was my responsibility to take the Civic Type R across Michigan, and as soon as we left in the morning, I immediately had issues with it. The infotainment in the Civic Type Rs has not been great. I was not able to connect my phone to Android Auto at all. I restarted my phone, we tried my brother's phone, which is also an Android, nothing worked. It would go into it and then just basically kick us out. Other than that, everything was really, really great about that car. The seating position was good, the shifter was awesome. I think that might be like the best shifter I felt in a really, really long time. Just stopping to grab some gas. Got the absolute lineup here. Pretty sick. As we drove along every hour, I was getting a little bit more excited, but also a little bit more nervous. Like, to me, I live in the used car world. A brand new car is not really obtainable for me, and honestly, the thought of anything happening to one just sounds awful. Financially and also, I think morally, it's kind of like you're tainting something. If you wreck a brand new car or anything like that, get it scratched. And the entire trip over, that was just that was in the back of my head, yeah, it was a little bit nerve-wracking. But we made it to Gingerman. Chris took me around, kind of showed me the track a little bit, showed me a line. Doing some sighting laps, the Type R. Got the Topher.
Hey.
Should be good. And it's weird, Gingerman is very flat, and it's very conceptually easy, but to actually master it, you kind of got to know what you're doing, especially the back half is a little bit tricky. First ride along the Type R feels very similar to my brother's Elantra N, incredibly similar. Gingerman's cool. It's a very open track, not a lot of elevation changes. The corners look self-explanatory, but are not. You have to link them together pretty well to be fast. So I think that's gonna be where I have to work on a lot. A little bit about the car. It's, I'd say, OEM plus. Chris has a Cobb off-the-shelf tune, 93 octane. So it's getting maybe around 340, 350 wheel horsepower. Pilot Sport Cup 2s all around. I think it's a square setup. If I had to guess, 265 in the rear and 265 in the front. Yep, so square setup.
So the big things are, it has a Cobb 93 tune, so probably about another 40 horsepower over stock. and then the Acura Integra Type S damper module, which
yeah.
completely transforms the handling. The suspension is actually good now instead of just too bouncy and over damped.
I then took it out for my first session at Gingerman. I went super slow. I didn't know the track. I didn't know the car, but it felt really good. It felt very similar to my brother's Elantra N, a little bit more edgy. On top of that, the car was immediately oversteering, which, you know, front wheel drive cars, if you set them up or if they're like meant to be really fast, they'll typically rotate pretty hardcore. And the Civic Type R was no exception, especially when the tires were cold. That thing was sliding around. I then went out for my second session. So I haven't had a lot of experience with the Type R before today. It's kind of my first extended period with this car. And honestly, big things to highlight are the shifter. That's fantastic. The interior quality is really, really good. Had some trouble with the infotainment, to be completely honest, but everything else in the interior is really great. Physical controls, that's all awesome. The gauges are sweet. The shift light, you guys will see, works very, very well. It looks great. How's it going? Yep, and I got my helmet done up this time.
Brakes on.
I'm leaving. He gets me with a parking brake joke every single time. Car sounds pretty good from the intake side. However, from the exhaust side, it's really quiet. Now, this is my second session at Gingerman, so please don't look at my lines. They're going to be bad. They're going to be very, very bad. But that's okay, we're just having fun. Roll down that window. Go out wide. The name of the game for today is learn Gingerman and just have a good time with this car, honestly. Chris was very kind to let me come out, drive his baby. I'm just having a blast. Turning is very, very good. I believe this car is on stock alignment. I got to brake a lot earlier there than I think, because it's kind of a short corner. Really good power from this tune. There we go, push it around. Got a cute little S2000 in front of us. Lots of S2000s today. Before I get a pass. Car tends to oversteer quite a lot. Whoa! That Corolla just went off. There you go. I think the track is a little greasy, if I'm being honest. Quite a little bit of understeer there. I'm going to have to be a little bit more conservative with my driving. It's about like 45 degrees. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty greasy. This section of the track, I really am not confident about. probably let this guy by here. There you go, bud. And we'll just try to keep up with him. Gingerman's it's an interesting track. Holy shit. I don't know if that was brakes. It was an interesting track because it has a lot of straights and very long sweepers, which is not really something that I'm used to. Definitely go a lot deeper in there. Starting to feel pretty better on the brakes. Really good brakes, honestly. You can feel that LSD really helping you out. Out wide. There we go. Need to go out more wide here than I think. Now cut in. Yeah, that felt much better. Oh yeah. Try second, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, might be a third. Woo! Yeah, feels really good under braking. Little chirp of the wheels there. Oh yeah, I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident. Got a brake system light that kind of apparently just comes on normally. With every single lap into my session, I was getting more and more confident, and it was also getting more and more wet. It was continuing to rain throughout the day, throughout the session, and I might have been getting a little bit too confident.
So remember, next time, more brake,
Yeah.
less gas.
Yep.
You can get around the track so much quicker.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I'm gonna head back in and just double check that everything is
Everything
fine.
looked okay.
I think in the back of my head, I really wanted to set a good time to impress some people, which ultimately didn't happen because the track feature of the car where you select a racetrack, it wasn't really working that well. So I never actually found out what my time was. I was trying to set a good time. I should not have been. So let's pick apart what just happened. Let's dissect this a little bit. So just playing it one more time in real speed. You can see car starts to break up there. We're gonna go into slow-mo, kind of analyze it a little bit. So I'm entering the turn, and it's important to note that when I'm entering the turn, I'm doing about 60 at the apex, just right around there, which was, I think, 5 miles per hour faster than the last lap. And it's a little bit difficult to see. You can see a little bit. It was starting to rain, and it wasn't raining enough to where you really see it and have to use your wipers, but it's kind of still on the track a little bit. So it was starting to get greasy. Apex going a little bit too quickly. Here I go. Entering the turn. and you'll see that I get some oversteer right there. I think what had happened was I'm entering the corner, I'm realizing that I'm carrying way too much speed, and to make the turn, I know that the car will understeer with how much speed I was carrying. I was just going way too fast. And I let off a little bit, and I think that let off immediately caused this rotation, and I had to correct the oversteer. And I think that was the right choice, because, I mean, I would have spun out sideways off track instead of going forward. So corrected that, went back into the turn, and at this point, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to scrub off enough speed. It was just kind of trying to keep the car as much on track as I could. At a certain point, I just kind of accepted, like, hey, I'm going to go off straight, because that's kind of the best way to do it. You don't want to go off the track sideways, because that's how a rollover happens. I'll play it one more time, and honestly, if anyone else, can figure out what I did wrong, feel free to put in the comments. I'm sure I'm not the most experienced to be going through this, but I think this is kind of an explanation of what happened. This is honestly my worst nightmare. To go off track in someone's car that is not mine, that is something that's very expensive. I was feeling it on the way back to the paddock, and I was just embarrassed and nervous. Honestly, I would be lying if I said that I didn't my pants as soon as I went off track. I heard a big bump, a big knock, and I was concerned. I get out, and immediately I look around the car, and I'm searching to see what happened, if anything. Unfortunately, I get to the front bumper, and there's a big scratch, a big kind of scuff on the lip, as well as the front bumper. Honestly, I was really embarrassed, and immediately I knew that I would pay for this somehow to get fixed. That obviously is my fault. I should not have been pushing as hard as I was, especially with the conditions. I should have been paying attention more. I was embarrassed, but Chris, the owner, my God, that guy is something else. Chris, he just walks on up, and you could tell that something was off. He was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I kind of went off track." And the first thing he says is, "Did you get it on video?" He then takes one look at the car, sees the scuff, and is like, "Dude, it's fine. It's PPF. It's gonna come off easy." Just the way that he said it was like really comforting to know that he wasn't pissed or anything like that. He was just cool as a cucumber, very chill about it, and that was definitely very good to hear, because it could have gone the entire other way, and I would have been like destroyed. The rest of the day, it rained. We drove back home. I was driving at night for the entire time, as well as the entire day. And honestly, I was just white knuckling, just hoping to get the car back in one piece and not do anything worse. And every single hour into the trip, I'm just thinking, man, I messed up. This is stupid. I don't know why I did this. I was nervous and a little bit embarrassed. We get to Chris's house. He grabs a little squirt bottle with some bug and tar remover, squirts it on the car, and it just wipes away. And at that moment, I felt so relieved. Even though I messed up, even though I went off track, there wasn't any actual damage. It was all just wiped off. It was easy. What ended up happening was I actually hit a cone. That's what scuffed up the bumper, and it just came right off. And honestly, I respected him before, but I respect Chris even more, because he could have gotten mad and he could have just, gone the other way, but he was chill and he knew that it would just come off. And yeah, that was a relief. And that concludes my weekend with a Honda Civic Type R. It was not ideal, I'll be honest, but honestly, that's a fantastic car. It's a little bit more edgy than I think I would personally like. The Elantra N felt a little bit more kind of forgiving, but we knew that the Type R would be a little bit faster than the Elantra N in terms of the way that it felt and the input. So Type R, I'd love to own one. That'd be sick. Even a Honda Civic Si, I'd love to own that too. I should not have sold my 8th gen Civic Si, and I admit that. I thanked Chris for the opportunity, apologized once more, and honestly now, I'm just ready to have my own dedicated track car. I want to genuinely learn how to drive in all conditions, in all platform types, and the next step might be kind of taking it back a notch and going back to my my old Miata days. The NC Miata is definitely calling my name. And that will do it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and keep it on the track.